first because we want to make sure.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Through the Keyhole. I'm your host, Karyn Dolan, coming to you live, as usual, from Rochester, New York, via the Paranormal Radio Network, and also on UPRN 105.5 FM in New Orleans. What I'm doing this week that's not as usual is I'm not only live from Rochester, I'm live from the New Moon Psychic Fair in Rochester, New York. And for more information on this show, on tonight's episode, and on my guests, visit our website at www.keyholepublishing.com. Thanks, everyone, for joining me this evening. And I want to hear from you, just like always. If you're listening live, join us on the message board to discuss the program and add your questions and comments. ParanormalRadioNetwork.com to join us in the virtual auditorium. And you can participate in the conversation there through instant messaging. You can also email me anytime with your questions and comments at kdolan@rochester.rr.com. Or you can call into the show toll-free at 1-877-786-0562. And if you missed any of that, it's all on my webpage at www.keyholepublishing.com. I will mention that tonight, if anyone emails me questions, I will not have access to my email because I'm not on my computer. So tonight, if you want to talk to me, if you want to email me anything, try to get on the Pal Talk message board through Paranormal Radio Network and send it to me through IM. I love getting your questions and comments. Join in the conversation. Please do this. Okay, my first guest this evening is musician, Native American musician and wood flute player, Michael Searching Bear. Michael, thanks so much for joining me.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
So, Michael, what brings you to the Psychic Fair?
Well, I'm here as a musician and also to show my wood flutes that I create myself.
You create them yourself?
Yes,
I didn't
do.
know that.
Yeah, I do three things for a living. I'm a wood flute maker full-time. I'm also a Native American world musician, basically. Do that for a living, and I also teach on Native culture all over the country.
Oh.
Those three things keep me off the street. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it.
So, I assume you'll be selling your flutes.
I will be selling, yes, we'll be selling the flutes, we'll be selling my CDs and DVDs and a bunch of other really nice Native cultural items.
Fantastic. And will you be playing music this weekend?
I will be playing throughout the entire weekend, so I'm told. So that'll be fun.
I actually am embarrassed to say that I haven't been to many psychic fairs before, and there are so many people here that I don't know, that I'm not familiar with or were unfortunate. Well, I'm excited now to get to meet you, but you are one of the people that I hadn't heard of before this fair. So it's really so cool for me that I get to meet you and talk with you like this. It's interesting to me that to most Americans, you say Native American, and automatically that ties in with psychic fair, where a lot of people wouldn't necessarily see the link.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why that really is. I guess it's just the Native American spirituality is such that people tend to separate our spirituality from the norm. And I suppose you can look at that as a good thing and also probably not so good thing. I mean, we are who we are. The Native American people tend to be far more spiritual than the general populace, I guess. But I guess probably most of our reasons to doing what we do is to bring the populace a little closer to their spirituality, be it in a psychic fair, genre, or just your regular spiritual settings.
I'm curious to know what you were thinking of when you said this may not thing. I mean, to me, bringing more spirituality to daily life seems like it would always be a good thing.
Oh, yeah. What basically what I meant was the native spirituality tends to be separated by most folks from the norm religion, if you will.
Oh, okay.
And like I said, sometimes that can be a good thing, sometimes that can be a bad thing. Spirituality is spirituality no matter where you're at in the world. It's just, a lot of folks, they have to separate your religion from my religion and their religion from our religion and stuff. And that, I think that's a bad thing. I mean, it's all spirituality. It should be all spirituality, and it's all good for our souls, and that's definitely the message. But some folks, there's folks out there that don't see it that way, so that's where the bad thing kind of comes up, that, oh, well, you're a Native American, you're one of those.
So they might think that maybe Native American spirituality has nothing to do with them, that it doesn't fit into their lives.
And the stereotype that the Native Americans have always had, apparently most folks believe that we pray to many gods, which is false. We bow down to trees and stuff, which is false, and it's that stereotype that we have to knock down. But again, that's something that when they hear Native American, then they separate us. But I guess all cultures, people have to separate everybody just because that's what humans do.
Yeah.
So so our reason for doing, at least my reason for doing what I do all over the country, is education. We're all in this together, and we might as well enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, is this something that you've grown up with your whole life, or is this something that you came to at a later point in your life?
You mean my heritage,
yeah.
Culture? Well, obviously, I've been Indian all my life.
Yeah, there's so many people who, maybe don't really embrace the Native American spirituality.
I guess I'm probably very similar to many people that I meet, Native Americans that I meet, that I didn't grow up on a reservation, so I didn't really learn in my culture, my heritage. I didn't really learn it in that manner growing up on a reservation. I always knew as a Native, but yeah, it was very late in my life that I finally really searched my family tree, if you will, and found out who I was, and that's the time I found the Native American wood flute. And that is what helped me continue my search in the culture, and then from there, it's a learning, it's a learning mechanism every day. I learn something new about me, something new about my culture, something new about my tribe. I'm Cherokee and Powhatan, so
that was going to be my next question.
Yeah, so I'm always learning about my people, if you will. But I didn't really get really in depth in my culture until, oh goodness, I'm going to have to say it was probably 15 years ago, maybe 15 to 20 years ago is when I really started searching a lot. My grandmother, my father's mother, she was Cherokee, and she died relatively young. I mean, I was early teens, I imagine, when she passed on, and she was the one that held all stories of her family. So unfortunately, she wanted to teach me, but I was too busy doing
what. A lot of those stories were lost.
A lot of those stories were lost. So I've been trying. That was probably the main reason for me to really jump into my heritage, is to try to recapture those stories from other great aunts and folks that were still with us. And unfortunately, a lot of them did pass on and were lost, and I learned a big lesson. Yeah. So you live for today, and you learn what you can learn, because tomorrow the teacher may not be there.
Yeah. When you think of something you want to do, don't think, I'll do that sometime.
You can always say there's always tomorrow, but you can't guarantee that. That's right.
You want to do it now.
Yeah.
So what brought you from learning all of this and exploring it for yourself to wanting to bring it to other people? What do you do?
I think just being a musician all my life. I started playing a drum when I was 6 years old, and I think my first professional gig I was 11.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
So I've been a musician all my life, and being a musician, I mean, basically what you're doing is, teaching or educating other people through your music. At least that's what I did. So, when I found out about the Native American culture, it was just obvious that it was my job to teach and educate that to others, because the Native American culture is probably one of the biggest stereotyped peoples on earth. So we need all the help we can get to try to break that. I mean, we've had Hollywood, teach us exactly what Native Americans are like and everything, and it just gives us a reason to wake up the next day and go to work again, because we have to break that. So So it was just a natural thing for me that I had to go and teach the culture, not only with education, but through music, as well as through my flutes and teaching. Oh yeah, absolutely. It's a great tool to use, a great hub.
Yeah.
And because I've always said that as a Native American, you can't just teach on one subject, because everything in our lives is a circle. So once you start, as I use the flute as a hub, you use that as a hub, and you can hit every subject in anybody's life with that flute when you come back around.
And I can see that would be a good way to draw people in, too, because people, like the ones you were talking about before, who don't see Native American spirituality as having anything to do with their lives,
right,
can still appreciate the beauty of the music.
Absolutely. Music is the international language.
Yeah, and that can draw someone in and then make them curious about what kind of culture would have made this incredible music.
Yep, absolutely. So it's a great tool, and all flute makers as well as flute players that I know of, I mean, we all use that to teach. And I think that's, again, music's the international language. That's what it's there for.
Wow. Well, we just have a couple minutes left, and I just wanted to ask you were talking about the importance of teaching about the stereotypes and breaking those stereotypes. So if you could choose one, what would be one message that you'd want to put out, one stereotype that you'd want to try to address?
Good question. We only have a couple minutes. I'm not sure if I can answer that.
Fast, short answer.
I guess probably that Native Americans are your neighbors. We're just like everybody else. For some reason.
The stereotype that you're different.
Yeah. We were. That along with we were living here before contact, before the European and England here. We were here. This was our land. This was our place to live, and this is where God put us. So we've always been here, and we're still here, and we're just people. We're no different. Yeah, we may have long hair, maybe not all of us,
some
but
of us do too.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess that's a very hard question to answer, but a good question.
Well, thanks. I've often thought how much better off our country would be now if we had moved in, if Europeans had come and embraced the existing culture and learned from it.
We're not much different. We're just not much different. Even though we were looked at that we did things so much differently, but we really don't.
Okay, we are actually out of time, Michael.
Well, thank you
so much for joining me.
Thank you.
I
appreciate it.
With you.
Thank you very much.
And you are listening to Through the Keyhole live on the Paranormal Radio Network, and also broadcasting live from the New Moon Psychic Fair in Rochester, New York. I'm having a blast tonight. I'm doing my speed dating kind of thing tonight. We have several guests. I've got 5 or 6 people lined up for this evening. That was Michael Searching Bear, who's a Native American musician and wood flute maker, and I can't wait till tomorrow when I get over and get a chance to look at his flutes and things. Today, right now, my next guest is Steve Appleton, who is here with FoodLink.
We're doing a food drive for FoodLink.
And also Cool Kids, but I know you mentioned you were more interested in talking about FoodLink.
Yeah, we didn't bring any kind of Cool Kids energy here today, except for me. But they brought me on board to kind of, drum up energy and support for the food drive that they're doing. It's not a requirement, but if you so choose, they're doing a food drive. If you want to bring cans, we would love. 1 is great, 10 is better, 100,000 is even better.
Where is the food going?
Food's going to FoodLink, which actually is an agency here in Rochester that's based here, but it actually supports, I think it's 700 agencies in about 11 counties. So for those folks who've ever had to use a food shelf or utilize a food shelf, most every single food shelf that's accredited has to go through FoodLink. For those folks who want to benefit a food shelf, this is a great way to do it. Obviously the need is pretty great. We usually forget around this time of year. We're usually thinking more around the holidays, November, December, I have so much, there's so much abundance, and then we kind of graciously give people food then. This is a great time to do it, as part of the whole, just a good spiritual equation.
When I first heard about FoodLink at the Psychic Fair, it kind of sounds like a little cognitive dissonance there, but But, the psychic fair is all about raising consciousness and, working on a higher frequency, raising that energy where you feel gratitude and you feel like sharing and giving to others. And this is the perfect way to do it. And I think it's so neat that it's right here at the psychic fair, so you're kind of catching that tide of good energy here.
Yeah, and it's one of the universal laws. When you give, you receive. I mean, if you want to make it as simple as that. But certainly, like when you give and you're serving out there in the community, it isn't just who you serve. It's really serving you.
Yeah.
And you really do feel something good. And on a really simplistic level, that raises your vibrational level. So think about it. You bring one can, think about a certain level that you bring. It doesn't matter if you bring one or 101. It's not just about bringing the physical can itself. If you don't bring those and you forget, you can obviously give it a cash donation. It's about the action, the intention. So.
And if you forget, there's a Wegmans right outside.
Right. And there's a CVS store and a Rite Aid and a Tops.
No excuses, people.
Down the road.
So when you're talking about the food link and the people who need to pull into this, are you finding a lot more of that right now with the economy the way it is? I'm thinking there's a lot more joblessness. There are a lot more people really struggling to make ends meet. Or is it more like an emergency type of thing, like people who have had house fires and maybe lost everything and need temporary assistance?
Yeah, well, I can't actually speak for FoodLink now. The weird part is I used to work for them years and years and years ago, but I don't feel qualified to speak for them now. I can tell you from my vantage point, with a program I do called Cool Kids, we do something called Canimals on Parade, the Canned Goods Sculpture Contest.
Oh, cool.
So we get all these different teams to actually build a sculpture during a street festival called Cool Kids Day Block Party, made of 1,000 canned goods that are non-perishable. That's our minimum requirement. The reason I hooked up with the Expo and with the Psychic Fair and with Barbara Conish's crew, I'll say, is they had me come in and actually talk to them about what makes that successful and how can they be successful with this. I feel like the need's always there, but when people access the food shelf, here's what I do know. Most of us think there's a lot of myths around about who actually goes to a food shelf and what they really get from it. Most times people that go to food shelves are working class families, and their paychecks do not cover their food, what they need, and just basic food stuff. The irony about food stamps is the best 2.5 weeks, every time you get food stamps, your monthly allotment covers about 2.5 weeks of your actual need. So for 1.5 weeks, they're really hurting. People that work at food banks and people that I know that work at food banks and people that we benefit through Canimals on Parade, when they actually get food, they're always needing food. There's never a time they don't need food. Now it's 2009, and it's all over the news. You'd have to be blind not to know it. But their need is exponential at this point. So we can talk about need until we're blue in the face. I think why people don't donate is really interesting to me. I think they think some of those myths are true, that people are taking advantage of the system, they should get out and work. I think there's so much abundance, and there's so much that we do have. I think we're afraid that if we give, it's not going to come back to us. We don't have enough. You start exercising universally, like, here's the law. I have more than enough. I am more than enough. I always have more than enough. And if you give more, what's interesting is it really does. It actually comes back to you in a bigger way. It happens to me every single time I do. I give a lot, it comes back to me like tenfold. And anybody who's experienced that, sometimes we kind of get tightened up, and it's 2009. We're afraid the economy's bad. What's going to happen in the future? I think if you're out there and you keep exercising that thing, it just becomes like any exercise you do. You get better and better and better at it, and then it keeps coming back and back and back.
And that's a real question of faith. You have to have faith that it will work out. When you talk about people being worried that if they give away what they have, then it won't come back.
Absolutely, and it's an exercise.
Yeah.
When you think about faith, we make it an intangible concept.
Right.
To me, it's a practice. You have to actively practice faith, actively practice giving, actively practice abundance. How do you do that? Some of the times you do it, it's easy to practice abundance when you have a lot. Sometimes when you have a lot, you get so used to having a lot, you don't think that's a lot anymore.
Yeah.
I know people who are doing quite well in the world, and they don't think that having $100,000 in the bank is enough anymore. because they're so used to having that.
Ooh,
Does that make
imagine
sense?
that.
Yeah.
I can see what you're saying, but I just can't imagine having that much in the bank, I guess.
But people who have
Wow.
5,000, some people, like a $20 thing is just astronomical to them. It can throw them so left. A $20 expense they're not waiting for.
Yeah.
That's like these folks, like after 2.5 weeks, if they run out of food stamps or they can't get any more food or they're working 2 jobs and they're trying to afford daycare and they don't want to go to a food shop. They don't want to go. But like that's how I see our job out there. Those of us who do practice our faith and prosperity, our job is to like help. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just be present and be exercise that same like we all have it. We all have the ability to do it.
So it's good. You're doing good for the people who need this, and also doing good for oneself by donating and by giving, exercising your own faith that this will come back, and you're also reinforcing the faith of the people who need this, that someone will help, that someone will step up.
And it is true. Like those people who get help, some of them never. I don't want to say never, but a lot of them don't. That's part of the myth. They don't actually end up giving back. They just are receivers and receivers and receivers. And are we truly serving those people? If we don't show them how to fish, if we're constantly giving the fish, we're not serving them. But that's not what this is about. When we do cannibals on parade, we have people come up with bags full of food. And then it isn't the food that they bring, it's the story. And the story they bring time and time and time again is, I needed help. And I went to a food shop, and usually they're very emotional about it. And they're like, this was the time I needed the most help. I went to a food shop. It was embarrassing to me. They made it easy for me. I didn't have to fill out paperwork. I didn't have to prove anything to anybody. They didn't make me feel bad about myself. I just needed help. I got the help. And they're giving us food at that moment and they're more emotional about giving it back. You know what I mean? Than the receiving of it. So to me, closing that circle, such a simple process, but it eludes us, especially now. You know what I mean? It eludes us when we're really, really feeling like lack all the time.
Especially now with the economy the way it is, everyone's feeling
very tightened up. People are tense.
Yeah. But you're right, it's even more important now when you're talking about people who have a lot, who can give. And I'm thinking, but it doesn't mean as much because because they have so much, they could give and not know this. When you don't have much and you give so that you actually feel the pinch yourself, and not saying you have to do this, but when someone does that, that's so much more meaningful.
And statistically, the people who have more, meaning that are in the upper middle class to wealthy, give a lower percentage than people who have less than them. I mean, so it's really, really interesting, those of us who aren't in the upper middle class, upper class, like we're givers, I suppose, because it's just part of our nature.
Well, there's a sense of people who are in the middle and lower socioeconomic strata maybe know better what it's like, or they can identify or imagine what it's like to need to be on the receiving end of it.
Absolutely. And there's no separation.
Yeah.
You know, when you're sitting in a food shop and you're giving food out to people who need food, it's you looking back at you when you're doing that. And it's not the fear that you could be them. It's actually you understand, you get it, because everybody's been through a time when they've needed something. And that sometimes the need is really extreme. And sometimes it's very simple what you receive. A smile in a store, to me, is huge. From a complete stranger. Somebody who lets you come in front of them on the expressway some days is really huge. Somebody who's just kind to you at a hospital. You know what I mean? When you're in a bad place. And when we receive that, we will remember to give that back to people. Those things don't cost money. So if you can't get a can, give a smile. You can't do that, let somebody get in front of you. It's not that hard. It's all about peace. Like for me, that's why I do what I do. And I think that's why this expo is here as well. This to me is all about, peace. How do you actually take a community like this and show them like what you do already is about peace. And then people think peace is too big for them. Giving food to people who need food, that's a real simple step. To say, I support everyone. I support peace.
Yeah. Well, spreading good feeling and spreading food. Everybody knows every child who's tired and cranky and hungry is more likely to fight.
Absolutely.
That works on grown-ups, too.
Across the board, your concentration is down, your focus is down.
Yeah.
It affects, obviously, behavior in school, but it affects your grades in school. And then those of us who are hungry, who are adults, we can't focus at work. You know what I mean? And so
and then if you know your kids are
so much more stress. And what does stress do? And that's this whole expo is about, like, you know, not just de-stressing people, but there's all kinds of alternatives here to a stressful lifestyle. You know, so it all, like, comes in big circles, concentric circles around each other. Just works.
That's such a cool description of the whole psychic fair, actually, because, you know, most people will see an ad in the paper about, oh, there's a psychic fair this weekend, and they'll think, oh, it's a bunch of those crazy hippie types getting together to play drums and wear tie-dye scarves and whatever else they do there. I don't know.
There's nobody around here like that.
Yeah.
We're watching them go by.
But, you know, I'm having a blast here.
Yeah.
I'm really enjoying talking with everybody. And it's funny because I've been Wiccan like my whole life, but I don't generally connect with other people that much. I'm very solitary. And I don't usually come to psychic fairs. This is the first one I've ever been to in Rochester.
Okay.
So I'm really having a great time, and I'm just sitting here trying to think, you know, for the average person, you know, my neighbors who are sitting with neighbors thinking, psychic fair, why do I want to go there? You know, you just gave a beautiful description of why really everybody should be here. You know, whether you're pagan or Christian or, you know, it's talking about searching there about Native American spirituality. And we're just talking about how it's really, this applies to everybody. This is about being a human being. It's not about being pagan or Christian or a hippie or conservative or whatever. It's all about realizing that everybody belongs here.
Yes. It's the time. I mean, this is the time. It's 2009 on the calendar year. But everybody's feeling the shift, and economically people are feeling it that way. But people in all strata are feeling a different kind of shift, and I think the time is, you know, it's no longer about liberal, conservative, Republican, Democrat. We've proven this time and time again recently, but it's no longer about, you know, I am this religion and you are not. This is the truth and this is not. It's not that everything is the truth, but I think we really have to stop dividing ourselves from each other, separating ourselves from each other. That's why when you give food or do an action like that, that's something like that, it isn't about just like, I feel sorry for those people, therefore I should, like, you know, support them and give them candy. Because if you feel sorry for them, that's the worst motivation, I think. I think it's about love, you know?
Yeah.
And if you love, like, not just your life and who you are, but, like, you love being part of this whole thing, you know, if that's where you're at, I say that's where giving starts. You know what I mean? That's where it can be. And this is what this is. There's every walk of life where we're joking about people walking by with hippie stuff.
Yeah.
The drummers are walking by right when we were saying that.
I'm very conservative today, but I'm not going to be tomorrow.
Right. But there's every walk of life here, and they're on every different belief system because it's not a psychic fair. You know, it's a whole life expo, which means to me, you know, everybody's here, everybody's part of it, everybody's got a great part to, you know, play in this thing. You know, you can start it by just that one moment where you choose to give, and then, you know, come on in and just explore. Use this as an explorer. If you're afraid, and that's all you bring with you, you know, then it's going to be not as good for you. But if you come in with a little bit of openness, it's going to be, I think, pretty amazing what you'll discover here. You know, in terms of not just, there's not a bunch of people chanting and just,
well, there was a little loud.
Okay, they won't be all the time.
We did the chanting.
But product-wise, there's all these different products, and there's all these cool people, and they're just like you and me. There's no real difference at all.
Yeah.
You know, you always see yourself in other people, and so that's the kind of journey I think. Hopefully, we're all on. Yeah,
you know, it's very moved when you talked about, you know, working in a shelter or handing out food, and it's like yourself looking back at you. I think that image is going to stick with me for a very long time.
Very cool.
It really is. It's about looking at other people and not seeing them as other.
Yes. How do you practice that and walk through every day where you're consciously seeing people, not looking at them?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Not like listening to people, but hearing. You know, active engagement. I think we're called to do that, and it's, to me, keep that kind of space as I walk through each day, and giving becomes very easy, very simple. There's no, like, thought process of, what is this, or how come that, or my future, and oh my goodness. It's more about just, it is. You know, kids, watch kids. I work with kids. Watch kids. It's effortless when they share. It's effortless. Somewhere along the line, we take on this different energy where it becomes this, we have to figure out this and this and this. I have to know where my money's going. I have to know exactly this. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's interesting how much extra stuff we put on the simplest acts of just loving people. You know?
That's true. At some point, we learn that, you need to achieve and you need to compete and you need to start collecting stuff. You have more stuff than that guy over there. And that, not only is the materialism coming in, which I hate, and I'm trying to work it out in my life, but it's also starting to see that guy over there as competition. To me, I've got to be better than that other person. And the fact of seeing someone else as other is the first step.
Absolutely. And it's that, where did that begin?
Yeah.
Usually it's, I work with kids and families, so to me, I'm conscious that at a certain age, kids don't have that up to a certain age. They don't care who you are. They're playing with each other. They're not asking where you're from, what you smell like, why do you smell like that? Yeah. They're not saying, you smell funny, I don't like you. They're just conscious, you know what I mean? And consciously in the present. So we lose our present, and we lose our nowness. I think we lose ourselves by cutting ourselves off from everybody, dividing ourselves from everybody. So hopefully in our process here, we can... It's almost like a reversal. We start out that way, and as we go on, we're spiritually trying to go down this journey and unlearn. We're not learning new stuff, learning new stuff. It's unlearning the old stuff. We get to the point where we're kind of back to where we were as kids. The play is easy, giving is easy, loving is easy. Difference is cool.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun. It's kind of exciting. It's very simple. So
I'm really hoping to see a lot of kids this weekend.
I know.
I see a couple here tonight. In fact, my daughter is here tonight. My son will be here this weekend as well.
Very cool.
But I'm hoping to see a lot of other kids here, too. This is a really family-friendly activity. In fact, I see a dog over there.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Great. We just have about a minute or so left, but I wanted to ask you about Cool Kids. What is that?
It's an event series that we bring in cultural events for families of every sales public. You can check us out online at generationcool.biz. There's a series in Florida, one in Batavia, one in Rockport, kind of all over the state. Been around for 11 years. It's just tons of fun.
Activities?
Everything from Hindu temple dance to world drum jams, to bring in the typical jugglers and magicians to Jewish klezmer, world drum jams. But the difference is, instead of just bringing those groups, we actually get the whole audience to stand up and do Jewish klezmer together. We get the whole audience to stand up and, you're holding hands with somebody with developmental disability on one side, someone you never hold hands with on the other side. And you're all doing Iroquois social dance.
Very cool.
So it's been an interesting ride. So that's where a lot of its mindset comes from.
Wow. Wonderful. We're actually out of time.
I know.
But thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and you work with Larry Moss? You know Larry?
I know who Larry is. Larry's actually been a cool kid with one of the things.
Okay.
He works with Jeff Eden, who's also a juggler who I bring in for all the time.
Okay. Yeah. And I had to bring that up because, of course, I work with Larry now, so it's just way too cool.
Yeah. Rochester is small.
Yeah.
The world is small.
Great to meet you, Stu.
You too. I'm very happy.
Yeah.
Thanks very much.
And that was Steve Appleton, who is here with FoodLink at the New England Psychic Fair here in Rochester, New York. And we have another guest coming in. I told you we're doing speed dating tonight. This is way cool. And this is Reiki Master, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, Debbie Corbatti.
Debbie Corbatti.
Okay.
And this is Dietmar.
Hi, it's so nice to meet you two. Thanks so much for joining me.
Very exciting.
Welcome to Through the Keyhole. I don't know if you're familiar with the show at all. This is an internet radio program. We're probably getting about 70,000 listeners live.
I've never heard of this. This is very exciting.
Well, it's on a paranormal radio network. It's live on an FM station out of New Orleans, but I always record it here from Rochester. Not usually from an event like this.
Yeah. A lot of people to choose from and to interview.
We're getting good sound here. So, what brings you to the Psychic Fair? Tell me about Reiki. I've heard of it, but I really don't know anything about it.
Reiki is a hands-on healing modality that works with bringing the energy from the universe through to help people feel help their bodies heal. And it uses symbols and intention.
Symbols as in music symbols?
No, as
symbols,
in
S-Y-M?
S-Y-N-O-L-S.
Okay. Okay.
Symbols that have, it's a whole system that was brought through by a Japanese healer. And this has been going on for a long time. Dr. Sui. And he did a whole vision quest up on the mountain for, was it 21 days?
21 days, and that gave him all the symbols, which I actually use for different healing modalities for different kind of illnesses and stuff like that. So it's really intense. It's energy exchange.
So this requires a lot of training and certification and practice.
It requires training and certification and practice, but it is very simple at the same time. So once you understand the concept, I think it's just a matter of opening up to it and allowing it to happen and learning the symbols and things like that. And it's wonderful work. A lot of incredible things happen through it. So we're third level Reiki masters and do a lot of healing work. We also work with another healing modality, which is something we love, which is the modern, which in this part of the country is not that well known, but it is an international organization of people who are bringing to the modern world all of the ancient healing modalities from ancient times, from the times of King Solomon onward. So all of the Jewish mysticism, the early Christian mysticism that deals with Wicca, and has alchemy, works with all of the
Buddhism, everything.
It works with all the modalities that are there for people to help people in their lives, especially in this world and time that we live in. It's so important. And we connected with the Modern Mystery School. I have been trained as teachers and healers for the Modern Mystery School. Wow. So we're here at this event this weekend because we decided we wanted to bring the life activation work that the Modern Mystery School has taught us, activate as many people as possible. It's really a matter of, it's vital in today's world that we bring light onto the planet. And the life activation is a way of bringing that 10 times more light and energy into people to help them wherever they are, to help them ground, to help them heal, to help them in whatever way they need help. That energy goes. We've just seen every time we do something, see how how their lives have changed. Wow. I mean, a friend of mine, we went to visit friends in Sunshine Coast in Vancouver. And where? Vancouver. Oh, in Vancouver. I'm sorry, the music got loud just then.
Yeah. I couldn't hear you. Vancouver, Washington,
Canada.
Or Vancouver, Canada.
Yeah.
Okay.
And she was going through an operation through 3 days, and we did a life activation with her. And the feedback from her was, I could not have done the operation the way I did it without having that activation. It helped ground me. It helped kept me calm. It helped brought the energy that I needed to heal and to just move through the whole process very smoothly. And I was like, yeah, wow, that's fantastic, you know?
So I wanted to ask, when you talk about this being a healing method, what types of conditions is it most effective on? I mean, we're talking about spiritual healing, physical healing, and they're probably all bound up with each other. I understand there's not a clear separation. But do you find it effective? As you were saying for your friend, she was having surgery, so there was clearly a physical problem.
Yeah, I'm not saying that we took care of the problem.
Right, but it did help her
totally
come through it. Surgery, I mean, aside from whatever the reason for the surgery is, surgery itself is pretty traumatic. And so if this could help get through a procedure like that, that's fantastic.
I think that it is on all levels. We've seen so many things happen, and on the physical level, it's definitely a very powerful thing. I'm not saying that you would do this only and not go to a regular doctor, but we've seen miracles. I mean, we've seen things that have just healed, and I know for ourselves with our own little glitches that we have with our health. We'll just work on each other and, oh, my back isn't sore anymore. Oh, the headache is gone. Oh, I had a stomach ache. It's taken care of. And
wow.
It's very, very, it's just, opening and allowing your body to heal and giving it a little extra boost.
See, I've always believed that our bodies know what to do. If we would just stop fighting and giving ourselves drugs every time there's some little ache or pain, I just feel like that's making it worse.
That's the biggest thing. This is what a lot of people really don't realize, and I hope that fairs like this will bring quite a few people in so that we can open their eyes and say, look, we are here. We are a vessel of the universe. We can get this energy into your body to heal you. This is what we do. And that will help, because I have a really bad back problem. And my wife puts her hand on in the evening. It's just a different day the next day. And so it's what we want is that people realize that they actually can heal themselves. So many little things where they say, oh, maybe I take a Tylenol or I take whatever. And it's not necessary. And also people, I think, the conception of being moody or whatever can be overcome so easily with so little output, where people can heal themselves by just asking properly, learn how to receive the energy and put it on their own body.
I think one of the things that we're learning through this work is that our thoughts are such powerful vehicles, and for most people in the world, they have no idea how their thoughts hold so much power and energy. And when we think about happiness manifest, and if we are constantly focused on negativity, we're constantly focused on what's wrong, we're manifesting that. We're giving energy for that.
The programming, we are going through that
programmed
on a daily basis through the media and everything.
Yeah, and we've been programmed since we were born. I mean, we're all programmed in this way in our world today. And so this is really about intention. It's intending and using our thoughts for good and for the positive. And to be conscious of where our thoughts are. And so working with the healing modality helps to focus the mind on positive and moving that energy through in a positive way. And miracles happen all the time.
Wow, that's fantastic. Now, when you talk about people changing their attitude and changing their feelings, it just made me think that a lot of people who maybe are going through something difficult and they're feeling very negative about it, and people say, well, just be positive. If they try to do that without knowing the correct way, what they might end up doing is just pushing down negative feelings. Which then, I have a friend who's a psychotherapist, and he's always telling me, you can't just push it down because it'll come out sideways later. You have to deal with it. And it sounds like you're talking about using the technique to actually bring in more.
It's just awareness. And we started over a year ago here in Rochester. We set up an intender circle where people come on Sundays where we intend. We show gratitude for everything we got. If you're grateful, and then you intend, and then as a group, you bring this whole thing up to us for the best and highest good of everyone involved. This is so powerful. People learn through examples from other members in the circle. Wow, I should do that. Not always saying, no, that doesn't work, and why should I do this, and that never worked for me, and no, bring a positive attitude. And as soon as you are positive and grateful for that, what you have, you should be grateful that you wake up in the morning. You should be grateful that you have a roof over your head, that you have food on your table, that you make money to buy gas to travel to a show like this.
that there's some poem or something about, if you wake up and you see your kids have thrown their clothes all over the floor again, be grateful that you have children, you have a home, and they have clothes.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's really
See, all of a sudden, if you start thinking about it, you have so many things to be grateful for, and all of a sudden, this gratefulness changes your attitude, and then you're ready to say, and I want this. I need desperately a new car. You intend that you will get a different vehicle. Your vehicle is broke, or you need money to get it fixed or whatever. It works. We know it. We played this, and I tell you, it's just miracles. And this started then we started out this Nintendo circle, and then people get then the thought comes through and say, wow, it's a complete different mindset. And now they're open to healings.
Do you find that people start wishing really for material things? Do you find them coming through when they need them?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because it's not just a matter of saying, well, I want this. Setting an absolute intention. I intend, backing up just a minute, we all deserve there's enough for everyone. The universe has everything that we can possibly want.
Universe
and it's there for us.
Infinity.
So we are brought up in a world of black. I don't have this, I think, this person has it, I'm jealous. Our whole world is brought up in this world of black. If you recognize the fact that this universe is filled with blessings, and there you are, and you're grateful for the blessings you already have, then it opens a doorway to allow wonderful things to happen. Now, it doesn't mean you just sit back and just say, okay, I want a new car.
Yeah.
But you say, I want a new car, and so opportunities all of a sudden show up. Okay, then you take the next step, and you do this, okay, I want a new car. Gee, I think I'll just go over to the used car place and just walk around and see what's there and see what's happening. Wham, you get a new car. It's a deal you can't refuse because you totally can afford it there. But if you didn't put yourself there, you wouldn't get the new car. Right. So you take steps as well, and you open up, and the universe brings you right here. And so I think healing is all about...
Drops it in your lap right there now, when you need it.
So part of the trick is recognizing when the opportunity comes to you,
and you take the time. And that you don't stop yourself by thinking, I don't deserve it, I can't have it, I don't have enough money. That will block the manifestation of this dream that you have. But knowing that you have it, and it's now, and it's not sometime in the future, I'm going to have a new car, means you'll never get it. It's going over there somewhere.
It's somewhere in infinity. We don't know when that is in universal terms, right? Could be 50 billion years from now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we say now.
Tomorrow.
I need that now.
I
intend that I have this now.
And it's a Subaru, and it's whatever you want, You make it specific, and you put it out there. See, I got it.
And it sounds like the movie about The Secret.
Exactly. You take a lot of
There's actually a group they called the Intendos. They have a website, intendos.com, and it's a group that started about over 15 years ago, and through the help of a channeled elder, they put this whole intention process into a fantastic concept. And if you follow this concept, there's not 1 cent of negativity in there. Everything is positive. It goes out and it flies both in the universe and in the group. It's so powerful, you feel the energy going right through the heart. It's just amazing. We see this, the people which started with us here over a year ago, August last year, they are so successful, and they were so full of doubt that that's not working, and here I got a problem, and I don't know if this is working for me, and that makes me very sad. I said, come on, let's work on that together. Intend it. But show your gratitude. Get grounded. It's fantastic.
So when people come and visit your home here at the Psychic Fair, are you teaching this method? Are you...
We're talking about this, and what we do is we want to do some life activations. We want to talk to people, and want to bring them into intender circles, where we start off, where people get involved to know a little bit more about our spirits. And then we are talking about the mystery school, the teachings of the mystery school, where people, there's a lot of people out there which they come and say, where do I begin? I have a feeling there is something more, but I'm stuck. I don't know. Can you help me? I said yes. And then we're teaching classes.
Probably a lot of people who come to a psychic fair come because that's it exactly. They want to know more. They want to meet people. Maybe point them in the next direction.
In direction.
And they want to, I think that everybody's looking